see if the nightmares that haunt you aren't just dreams, but warnings. Imagine this. Every night, the same shadow, the same whisper, the same face. Aderonke tried to brush it off as fear, as stress, as nothing more than her mind playing tricks. But what happens when the dream steps into your real life? When the stranger you keep seeing in the dark calls you by name? Before we dive in, do well to like, share, comment and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Lagos never really slept. Even deep into the night, car horns, shouting voices, and the hum of generators filled the air. But for Ronke, it was the noise outside that stole her peace. It was the face that came alive in her dreams. Night after night, she saw him, a man she didn't know. His eyes were sharp, almost piercing, as though they could see through her very soul. His smile wasn't exactly kind, but it wasn't cruel either. It was the kind of smile that made her feel both drawn in and uneasy. He never spoke. He just stood there, watching her like he knew something she didn't. At first, Ronke brushed it off. Everyone dreams, she told herself. Dreams are just random pieces of the day mixed together. But this was different. This wasn't random. This wasn't fading away in the morning light. The man's face stayed with her, born into her memory as though he were real. By the fourth night, she couldn't ignore it anymore. The dream wasn't just repeating. It was growing clearer. The background was no longer a blur. She could see a narrow street lined up with old buildings. She could hear the distant noise of water rushing, like a stream hidden somewhere nearby. She had never been so such a place. Yet, her mind carried her there every night. During the day, Ronke tried to distract herself. She helped her mother sell fabrics at the shop in Balogun Market. The chatter of customers, the bargaining voices, the colors of lace and Ankara. Everything was supposed to keep her busy. But in quiet moments, she would suddenly remember those eyes that did not belong to anyone she knew. Her best friend Shade laughed it off when Ronke finally confessed. Maybe it's just one Yoruba demon chasing you in your sleep. She teased. Don't mind him. Pray before you sleep and it will go. But Ronke couldn't laugh. Her chest felt heavy every time she remembered the dream. Then something strange happened. One hot afternoon, as she crossed the busy road near CMS, she froze. A man walked past her, and her whole body went cold. The same eyes, the same smile. For a moment, she thought she was losing her mind. Her hands trembled as she stood rooted to the spot. Horns blaring, people brushing past her. She turned quickly, but the man was gone, swallowed by the crowd. That night, when she slept again, he was waiting this time. He spoke. His voice was calm, deep and chilling. You have to find me before it's too late. The next morning, Aderonke woke up drenched in sweat. The man's voice still echoed in her ears. You have to find me before it's too late. She sat up on her bed, clutching her pillow tightly. What did that even mean? Find him? How could she find a stranger she only saw in her dreams? She rubbed her face and tried to shake it off. But her heart refused to calm down. Lagos was already awake. Outside her window, the keke horns. Danfo buses calling for passengers. Hawkers shouting pure water. Gala, gala. Life moved on as if nothing strange had happened. Yet, Ronke felt like her world had shifted. At the shop, her mother noticed her restlessness. Ronke, are you okay? You've been cutting this lace one kind since morning. Her mother's sharp eyes caught everything. Ronke forced a smile and nodded, but deep inside, her thoughts were far away. She couldn't help scanning every face that passed by the shop. Men, women, children. None of them matched the man in her dream. Yet, she kept expecting him to appear, to step out from the crowd like he had at CMS. The memory of seeing him in daylight still sent shivers down her spine. Was she dreaming while awake? Or had he really been there? That evening, she told Shade everything. They sat on the balcony of Shade's small apartment, watching the orange glow of the setting sun over the lagoon. The city looked calm from up there, almost peaceful, but Ronke's voice shook as she spoke. He told me to find him, Shade. Inside the dream, he actually spoke. Shade's playful smile faded. This is getting too much. Ronke, are you sure it's not stress? Sometimes, when you are tired, your mind plays tricks. But I saw him on the road. I'm not making this up, Ronke whispered, her eyes fixed on the distance. Shade leaned closer, lowering her voice. Then, maybe this is spiritual. Dreams like this don't just come anyhow. Has your mom prayed for you? Ronke shook her head slowly. Something inside her resisted telling her mother. It felt personal, like the dream was meant for her alone. But the fear in her chest was growing stronger each night. That night, the dream returned. She was back on the narrow streets, the one lined with old buildings, but this time, she noticed a detail she hadn't seen before. There was a signboard on one of the walls. The paint was faded, but she could make out 3 letters. Oba, before the rest disappeared into cracks and dirt. The man stepped closer to her. His eyes were not cruel, but urgent. Time is running out, Ronke. If you don't find me, something terrible will happen. She woke up gasping. Her sheets tangled around her legs. She sat there in the darkness, heart pounding. For the first time, Ronke realized she could no longer treat this as a passing dream. This was something bigger, something waiting for her in the real streets of Lagos, and she knew she had to find out what it was. By the 3rd week, Aderonke could hardly sleep without waking in panic. The dream had become a ritual. The narrow streets, the sound of rushing water, the old buildings, and the man who spoke as though he carried a secret only she could unlock. His words, "Time is running out," haunted her like a drumbeat in the back of her mind. One Saturday morning, she decided she could not sit still anymore. Lagos was too wide, too chaotic. But maybe, just maybe, there was a way to trace the streets. She kept saying. She remembered the faded signboard. Oba. That was the only clue she had. She told Shade her plan as they boarded a danfo heading to the island. The conductor shouted, "CMS, Obalende, Obalende straight." And Ronke's heart skipped. Obalende. Could that be it? The sign in her dream had started with Oba. Shade saw her freeze. Ronke, don't tell me you want to start chasing dreams inside Lagos traffic. Shade warned, clutching her bag tightly as the bus rattled forward. But Ronke's eyes were fixed. What if it's not just a dream? What if it's leading me somewhere real? They dropped at Obalende, and the chaos swallowed them instantly. Street hawkers pushed trays of plantain chips and granola towards their faces. Cars' horns blaring, the air smelled of exhaust fumes and sweat. Ronke thought slowly, scanning the old walls, the narrow alleys, her chest rising and falling. Then she saw it. Half hidden, behind peeling posters and graffiti. A wall carried the faint outline of painted letters. Obale. Her breath caught. It matched the signboard from her dream almost exactly. Shade followed her gaze and shook her head. Ronke, this is madness. You are connecting ordinary things to your nightmare. This city is full of signboards, full of faces. You will get lost. But Ronke couldn't move. Her feet felt glued to the ground. Her pulse raising. She stepped into a narrow alley beside the wall. It looked eerily familiar. The cracked pavements, the old buildings leaning tiredly against one another. Her skin prickled. This was it. The streets from her dream. And then, as though the city itself was mocking her, she heard it. The faint sound of rushing water. She froze. Her throat dry. There was a gutter nearby, swollen from last night's rain, and the water gushed past, echoing exactly like in her dreams. She felt her knees weakening. This wasn't coincidence anymore. Shade tugged her arm, her voice sharp. Ronke, let's go back. Please, before something happens. But Ronke's eyes were already searching the shadows at the end of the street, half expecting the man to step out at any moment. Instead, what she saw made her blood run cold. There was a mark drawn on the wall in the charcoal, an eye, the same eye she had seen in her dreams, sketched as though someone had been waiting for her to find it. And for the first time, Ronke realized the man in her dreams wasn't haunting her by accident. He was leading her. The drawing on the wall would not leave Aderonke's mind. It was rough, almost careless, yet it carried an uncertain weight. The eye stared back at her as though it was alive, as though someone had drawn it for her alone. She reached out her hand, fingers trembling, and touched the charcoal lines. It munched slightly under her skin, proof that it was fresh. Ronke, let's go, Shade whispered, her voice urgent. She pulled at Aderonke's sleeve, glancing nervously at the people walking past the alley. No one else seemed to notice the strange drawing, but Shade's fear was real. Ronke took a step back, her heart pounding. She wanted to run, to forget all of it, but deep down she knew she couldn't. The dream had followed her for weeks, and now it had spilled into the working world. That night, when she finally slept, the dream returned, but it had changed. The man was standing closer than ever before. His eyes were sad, heavy with something that felt like loss. You found the first sign, he said softly, almost like a father speaking to your child. But you must not stop. Everything depends on it. Ronke tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't come. She woke up with tears on her cheeks, her chest aching as though she had carried someone else's sorrow. The next morning, she couldn't keep it inside anymore. At the shop, she told her mother a part of the story, not about the man, but about the dreams and the strange sign she had found. Her mother's face grew tight, lines etching deeper around her mouth. Ronke, her mother said carefully, not all dreams are ordinary. Sometimes they are warnings, sometimes they are callings. Don't chase what you don't understand. Pray instead. Close the door to the spirit world. But Ronke couldn't. She felt the opposite, that the door had already been opened, and walking away would not close it. Later that evening, as she walked home alone, she passed the same alley again. Her steps slowed against her will. The eye was still there, darker than before, and beneath it, someone had written a single word in bold strokes. Remember. Ronke froze, her stomach twisting. Remember what? She had never met this man before, at least that was what she believed. But as she stood there staring, something terrifying dawned on her. What if the man in her dreams was not a stranger after all? For the rest of that night, Aderonke could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart beating too loudly for comfort. The word on the wall, remember, played over and over in her head like a broken drum. Remember what? What could she possibly have forgotten? By morning, her eyes were swollen from lack of sleep. At the shop, she struggled to keep up with customers. Her mother scolded her more than once. Ronke, wake up. You're cutting this material anyhow. Do you want us to lose money? Ronke muttered an apology. But her mind was far away. She tried to think of her childhood, every face she remembered, every event, every story her mother had told her about when she was small. Nothing connected to the man in her dream. Nothing, and yet his words, his eyes felt too real, too familiar. That afternoon, she sat with Shade again, this time in a crowded buka near Oniko. They ate amala and ewedu, but Ronke hardly touched her food. She leaned across the table, lowering her voice. What if it's not just a dream, Shade? What if it's something I've forgotten, something from when I was little? Shade frowned, wiping her hands. Forgotten how? Ronke, you've lived here in Lagos all your life. You know everyone. There is no misery man hiding in your past. But what if there is? Enkay whispered. What if there's something my mother never told me? Shade fell silent at that. Her expression softened. Do you think she would hide something like that from you? Enkay shrugged helplessly. She didn't know anymore. The dreams felt too deliberate, too pointed to be random. That night, when she dreamt again, the man's face looked sharper, clearer. He was no longer just watching, he was pleading. You cannot deny me, Enkay. You know me, you always have. She woke up with a scream, clutching her chest, the air too heavy to breathe. She sat there trembling, the night pressing down on her shoulders. For the first time, a terrible thought entered her mind. What if the man was not coming into her dreams? What if he was coming from her own forgotten memories? The next morning, Mom, she said while they ate rice and stew at home, please, just tell me, is there anyone from my childhood I don't know about? Someone you don't talk about? Her mother's spoon clattered against the plate. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, without meeting Enkay's eyes, some doors should never be opened. Enkay's breath caught. Her chest tightened. That was not a denial. It was a warning. The warning lingered in Aderonke's ears long after her mom had left the table. Some doors should never be opened. The words sounded heavy, almost like a curse, but to Enkay, they were not a wall, they were a key. If her mom refused to tell her the truth, then she would find it herself. She walked through the old street near their neighborhood, greeting elderly neighbors she had known since childhood. She decided to start small with simple questions. Mama Dupe, the oldest woman on their street, was sitting outside her compound peeling groundnuts. Enkay greeted her warmly, then sat beside her. After some casual talk, Enkay asked carefully, Mommy Dupe, when I was small, do you remember if there was anyone close to our family who is no longer around? The old woman's hand paused for a heartbeat. Her eyes flickered toward Enkay, then again away. Children of nowadays always wanting to know what does not concern them. She forced a laugh and changed the topic, but her voice was too quick, too sharp. Enkay's stomach knotted. That was the second time someone avoided her question. Later, in her own house, she searched through an old wooden box her mother kept in the corner of their room. It was filled with family photos, birthday cards, and church programs. She flipped through carefully, her hands trembling. Most of the faces were familiar. Her mother, herself as a child, Shade at school events, but then she froze. One photo was different. It was old and slightly faded. In it, a man stood beside her mother, his arm resting lightly on her shoulder. His eyes were unmistakable. Enkay's heart stopped. It was the man from her dreams. Her breath quickened, tears stinging her eyes. The world tilted beneath her. He wasn't just a stranger haunting her nights. He had been here long before she ever understood. Her hands shook as she clutched the photograph, her voice breaking in a whisper. Mom, who is he? The photograph burned in Aderonke's hands. She couldn't tear her eyes away from it. The same sharp gaze, the same quiet smile, exactly as he appeared in her dreams. The air around her felt heavy, as though the walls themselves were holding their breaths. When her mother returned home that evening, Enkay waited in silence, the photo hidden behind her back. She watched her mother sat down the basket of vegetables. When her mother returned home that evening, Enkay waited in silence, the photo hidden behind her back. She watched her mother sat down the basket of vegetables she had bought from the market. For a moment, Enkay almost lost her courage, but the image in her hand gave her strength. Mom, she said softly, her voice trembling. Who is this? Her mother looked up confused, then froze as Enkay held out the photo. The color drained from her face. The basket slipped from her hand. Tomatoes running across the floor. Where did you find this? Her mother whispered, her voice breaking. In your box, Ronke replied. You never told me about him, Mom. Why does he look exactly like the man in my dreams? Her mother staggered back, sinking onto a chair. Her hands covered her face as if she could hide from the truth. For a long moment, she said nothing, only breathed heavily. Mom, please, Ronke pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. I need to know. Who is he? Why is he haunting me? Finally, her mother lowered her hands. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. His name was Bamidele. She whispered. And he was your father. The room spun. Ronke's breath caught in her throat. Father? All her life, she had been told her father had died before she was born. A man whose name was barely spoken. She had never even seen a picture until now. But her mother's word didn't stop there. Her voice trembled as she continued. There are things you don't know, Ronke. Things I never wanted you to know, because if you do. She shook her head, gripping her wrapper tightly. It will change everything. Ronke's heart pounded. The photo slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. Her father wasn't just a memory. He was the man who had been calling her all along. The silence after her mother's words felt endless. Aderonke sat frozen, staring at her mother as though she had become a stranger. Her father, the man she had never known, the man who lived only in dreams. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? Why did you keep him from me? Her mother pressed her palms together, as if in prayer. Because, Ronke, his death was not ordinary. Ronke's breath caught. What do you mean? Her mother's eyes filled with pain. She spoke slowly, each word trembling. Bamidele was a good man. Kind, gentle. He loved you, even before you were born. But there were people who wanted him gone. He knew things he shouldn't have known. And when he tried to speak, he silenced him. Ronke's hands shook. Silenced? How? Her mother swallowed hard. They made it look like an accident. But it was not. He was betrayed by someone close. Someone he trusted. The room felt colder. Ronke's chest tightened as though the very air pressed against her. She thought of the dreams, the urgency in her father's voice. The way he kept saying, time is running out. Her mother continued, her voice breaking. I tried to protect you from it, from the cause of remembering, because once you begin to search, the past will not let you rest. That is why I begged you to stop. Ronke shook her head slowly, gripping the edge of the chair. But Mom, if his death wasn't ordinary, then why is he calling me now? Why does he want me to remember? Her mom looked away, her lips trembling. Because maybe there is something he never finished, something he wants you to see. Ronke's paws raised. A dreadful thought settled in her mind. The alley, the eye on the wall, the word remember. None of it was random. Her father was pulling her towards the truth. That night, when she closed her eyes, the dream came again. But this time, Bamidele's face was closer, clearer. His voice was stronger. Ronke, they thought they buried me, but the truth still lives, and only you can uncover it. Ronke woke in the darkness, her body trembling. Her father wasn't just haunting her, he was guiding her. That night, Aderonke could hardly sleep. Her heart pounded with fear and anticipation. The dream had never felt so real, and she knew this time it would not be gentle. She closed her eyes, and suddenly she was back in the narrow streets. The one that appeared in every dream. The air smelled of rain and dust. The rushing water echoed in her ears. And there he was, Bamidele, her father, standing calmly, eyes full of both sorrow and urgency. Ronke, he said softly, you must see the truth. Follow the alley behind the old building near the sign, Obalende. It is where it all began. Her chest tightened. Every instinct screamed danger, but she knew she had to go. She rushed to the alley the next morning, heart pounding, hands trembling. There, hidden under broken boards and old tarpaulin, she found a small wooden box. Inside were letters, photographs, and a notebook, each piece revealing a story her mother had never told. She laid how her father had uncovered the dangerous secrets. People in powerful places had wanted to keep Lagos old. Corrupt dealings hidden. He had tried to protect his family. That was why he had been silenced. Tears streamed down her face as she read each letter. His words, written years before her birth, spoke of love, courage, and hope. He had always known she would find this one day. Suddenly, her mother appeared at the entrance of the alley, her face pale but determined. "Enkay, I see you found it. They tried to protect you, but maybe it is time you know the whole truth." Enkay ran to her, embracing her tightly. "Mom, I understand now. I understand why you kept it hidden." Her mother nodded, tears falling freely. "He loved you, Enkay. Even in death, he guided you to the truth." At that moment, Enkay felt a strange warmth. The city noise, the chaos of Lagos, faded. She knew her father's spirit had finally found peace, having delivered his message and revealed his secrets. From that day, the dream stopped, but the lesson stayed. Enkay learned that truth, no matter how painful, has the power to free the heart. Secrets may haunt us, but courage, love, and persistence can turn fear into strength. And as she walked back through the streets of Lagos, the sunlight reflecting on the river, she felt him there, not as a ghost in her dreams, but as a memory, a guide, and a part of her own heart. Her journey had begun in fear, but it ended in understanding, hope, and the quiet strength of remembering.